Hi, I'm Paul Ryding. I'm an illustrator, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to draw an eye using Procreate pencils. When people want to engage with a portrait, they make eye contact with it. You're trying to convince the viewer that what they're looking at is an actual human being. It's not difficult when you actually know a few tricks of how to make it convincing. So what I have here is the photograph, and I'm going to use this as the basis for mapping the layout. I'm going to lower the opacity, create a new layer, select the pencil tool, and select the color red. Start with mapping the top eyelid. Bring it down here, past the tear duct, corner of the eye, the lower eyelid. These are not straight lines, they all kind of blend into each other organically. Going around the iris. Again, these don't have to be precise. This map will not be in the final drawing. Under here, just dot where the eyelashes might be, and then roughly sketch the eyebrow. The curve here past the bridge of the nose, indentation of the tear duct underneath the eye, and we're also just going to quickly identify the light. And if we remove the layer, you can see that this is sufficient enough for us to understand where we need to go with the drawing itself. I personally like to use 6B for detail and dark areas. It's a fairly soft pencil in real life, so it allows you to kind of get lots of detail in there. And HB for overall shading. There are so many pencil tools that sometimes you can get a little bit overwhelmed with choice, so I think it's good to just choose 2 to 3, commit to them for one drawing, and then see where it takes you after that. Double tap the layer to reduce the opacity, and you want to bring it down to almost 10% so it's almost invisible. Create another layer on top and we're ready to go. I'm going to start off with a 6B pencil, maximum size, maximum opacity. You can start anywhere really with an eye, but it makes sense to me to start right with the pupil because it's jet black, there's no texture to a pupil, so we're just going to expand that, and it's not just a solid black dot, but we'll come back to that. So what I'm going to do is branch out, is just lower the pencil size a little bit to draw the outside of the iris. You can see the full curve of it at the bottom. And then at the top here, we're just going to draw for the rim of the eyelid. So just very gently, I'm going to start bringing the shade in, still using the 6B pencil. And then we're going to make slightly harder pencil strokes. What I'm doing now is very slowly trying to build the texture of the iris. This detail is kind of important. I'm going to go right over it with the HB pencil, because with the Apple pencil, what you can do is just tilt the entire pencil and it will just do a broad shade. So around the edges, I'm just going to begin to use heavier pencil strokes. Actually tilting the pencil now. Everyone has different shaped iris, different textures. If you don't nail that, a lot of people will immediately be drawn to it. Whenever I draw anyone, it starts with the eye and ends with it as well. So I've done the texture of the eye there. I'm kind of happy with it a little bit. So what I'm going to do is tilt the pencil even more. Really kind of try and blend the texture of the iris. And now I'm going to double tap so that I'm now going to eraser. I'm just going to do some flecks here just to lighten everything a little bit more, because the shade of this eye is blue, even though it's black and white. So the iris is semi-done here. I'm going to come back to it. What I'm now going to do is switch back to the 6B pencil, maybe lower the size of it, lower the opacity, and I'm going to start working on the top of the eye here, and then the top of the eyelid. Trying to blend in the eyelid with the eyeball itself to kind of give it that round texture. Bring some shading in here to the corner left of the eyeball. And I'm intentionally making quite a lot of mistakes here. That's the beauty of using digital illustration over analog. You can be a little bit more fearless. I'm just jumping back to the iris. I'm kind of always going back to certain parts and letting everything push forward at the same rate. The iris and pupil is almost always spherical. The eyelid will always kind of go over this line and under, so that it's actually a series of contours rather than just one consistent shape. So what I'm doing now is just kind of mapping exactly where the intense shading is. I'm using the HB pencil, using it at more of a 45-degree angle. Okay. what you need to do is be able to look at the photograph and look at the drawing and make comparisons as to where the darkest points are and the lightest points are. And a good way of doing this is very technological. You squint your eyes like this, look at the photograph, and you can quite clearly see where the darkest areas are. So where I'm looking at right now, here, bridge of the nose, and just under here. And it's light, and I also have the crucial reflection of the eye. So I'm going to begin that process and just begin to kind of flesh this out here. What I'm doing here is just tidying up the shading here. I am fully aware of how lifeless this looks just now, but the transition when you start adding the light reflection completely transforms it, or at least I hope it does. Hit the white, and then maybe go up to 6B. Now we look at the reflection of the light. Now this isn't an exact science, but I'm going to add it as a new layer, and then just begin to add a gentle amount of light, just turning into the light there, and you can see it begins to bring a bit more life to the drawing itself. I'm going to continue to use the white pencil here just to kind of add some flecks of light to emphasize the texture of the eyeball. So I'm going to go back to the black, HB, underneath. What I'm just doing is kind of applying a bit more pressure in terms of shading and just bringing everything together a little bit more, because what happens is in the inset of the eye there, you darken that, but then as a result it affects the rest of the drawing, maybe even darken the eyelid. So it's almost like gardening, that you're just jumping around the illustration, giving attention to this part and this part, and making sure the whole drawing in and of itself is growing naturally. I took a little bit of license here because your eyelashes are face on the camera, but I want to have eyelashes in this drawing, so I've just added them just to give that a little bit of flair. So I think it's sometimes good to draw too much and then use the eraser tool to bring the drawing back a little bit. Okay, I think this is not the end, but I think I'm happy with what I've laid out here. So I'm just going to leave that for a while and go away, come back with it with a fresh set of eyes. So I've been away for a little while. I'm looking at it straight away. What I'm noticing is here, although I only draw in the eye, there's no way of getting around it. If I'm going to do this, the shading at the bridge of the nose should come round directly here, because this section here just looks really odd. So I'm just going to bring the shading in a little bit. And you know, sometimes even if the information that you think would make a better drawing isn't there, you can actually add it in if you want. For example, here underneath the tear duct, you can see it's quite light, but I'm going to make it a little bit darker. As a result, the light areas are more vibrant and ultimately makes the drawing less flat. I'm happy with that now. The most crucial thing with the eye is making sure that you have good light reflection, because it is the window to the soul. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about me and my process, then check out my online course at Domestika. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn more about me and my process, please check out my online course at Domestika. You'll find a link in the description below.